Back room, they sit on the couch and she starts to take off her clothes while she's preoccupied with getting undressed. Scott, with a straight face, looks at Kevin, who returns the look with a smile on his face and says, "After tonight, there's no going back." They both know this is a moment that will make or break them, so taking care of business is a huge priority, and both are eager to see how it all plays out. Goddess stares at them, deciding where she wants to start. After debating for a bit, she goes with Scott as she feels that she needs to get him to loosen up so they can all have a good time. She puts her tits in his face and tries to get him to open his mouth, but he refuses, so she grinds on top of him. When she goes to grab his penis, she is stopped when he simply shakes his head in disagreement. Kevin turns to him, shooting him a look that says "loosen up," but he doesn't want her to get freaked out, thus ruining the plans for later on. Thought I heard something. After a few minutes, she switches over to Kevin and is ready to ask him if there are any boundaries, but she's heard about him and the things that will happen if she were to ever dance for him, so she bypasses that and quickly jumps on top of him and bites his neck. Caught off guard, Kevin thinks about pushing her to the floor, but in the blink of an eye, he changes his thoughts and smiles while placing her hands around his neck. Scott looks on, now interested to see where things will go, knowing that Kevin will play it out to the last boundary that she might have. Kevin has become familiar with the strippers, thinking and knows that some of them will do almost anything if the price is right and they feel comfortable. His research on the matter is crucial as oh my gosh, I cannot keep my words straight. His research on the matter is crucial as it will play a big role in how the rest of the night will play out, and that is why he didn't push her to the floor after she bit him. Slowly, she lowers her right arm and starts to stroke his penis over his pants. Scott is watching to see how far Kevin will go, knowing that he is in the room with them. But Kevin is not there mentally and is allowing her to do whatever she wants to him. Scott is perfectly okay with no longer having Goddess's attention on him because she doesn't trigger anything in him that makes him feel excited in the slightest. She continues to stroke and choke Kevin, and he's enjoying every second of it as she leans in closely to his left ear and offers to suck him in front of Scott. His eyes bulge, waiting to see what the response will be. Kevin doesn't say a word, just shrugs his shoulder. Goddess unzips his pants and pulls him out as Scott looks at it and says, "That's it, bro?" While letting out a laugh, then saying that he's only playing, Kevin loses control and starts to laugh wildly since he wasn't expecting that. But his laughter stops once she starts to go down on him. Her technique is something he wasn't expecting, as she didn't look like the top that knew what she was doing. "Oh yeah, that's awesome. Honestly, wasn't expecting this," Kevin says. "There's much more than this if you want to take me home," Goddess replies, having released his dick from her mouth. If you were reading my mind," Kevin says with a smile, "choking is the last thing in my mind right now, but there will be some spanking and other kinky stuff." "Like domination?" Goddess asks. "Yes, is that okay with you?" Kevin answers. "Sure, but I don't like to be the one giving pain." Yes, I was right. Goddess says, "No worries, I like to inflict it. Having no boundaries is a requirement to step into my world, though," Kevin replies. "I'm game. Let's do it once my shift is over. You will never forget this night. I'm going to F the crap out of both of you," Goddess says as Scott finally lets out a smile. "We're literally going to make you crap yourself, without a doubt. And trust me, it will be enjoyable," Scott says, causing Kevin and Goddess to laugh. Best part is that he's serious. "We're going to make you crap yourself due to how good it's going to be. Oh, the suffering will be worth it in the end," Kevin adds, as she giggles in excitement. Wow. The bouncer comes to let her know that time expired, and she apologizes for not getting him off, but that she will make it up to him once they get to his place. Kevin looks at Scott zipping his pants. They know they have it in the bag now. And all they need to do is decide what to do with her in terms of killing or keeping her. The problem is that they both view her as an object and have no care in the world for her outside of their entertainment. So coming to a conclusion isn't as easy as they expected, because they both couldn't care less, and it's interfering with how they decide what to do. Finally, they both agree on letting the night unfold as it will, and that they will go with whatever happens in the heat of the moment, as there is nothing but space and opportunity for them to decide which road to follow. They walk out of the club and wait for Goddess. As Scott has a cigarette, they discuss how to make tonight a success and avoid disaster, like they had last night. Scott mentions that the best thing is that Clay isn't around tonight, so that should help ease the moments of tension. And when things are flying out of control, knowing that to be true, Kevin can't defend Clay. They are both well aware that Clay and Mickey are the consciousness of the group. Consciences of the group. God. So he just looks toward the door while Scott continues to smoke, which allows a few moments for an endless number of ideas to roam free throughout his mind. After 10 minutes, Goddess finally walks out, apologizing for the delay, claiming that she was held back by Georgia, who wants to know how tonight goes, as she is interested in participating one day. Kevin responds with a shoulder shrug as he gives her the instruction to follow them back to his place and make sure not to get lost or left behind. Goddess is upset with the cold way that Kevin's acting, but she takes it as he's already playing the role of the dominant, so she tries to push her feelings aside. But deep down in her gut, she is getting a bad feeling about tonight. Yeah, you should. Are you ready to go? Kevin asks. Yes, Goddess answers. Good. Now get the F in the car and follow me, Kevin commands, intensifying her feelings of wrongness. Now in the car, Scott looks at Kevin, wondering where the hell that attitude came from, but he doesn't say anything. He liked it because there are moments when Kevin is too soft and others where he is too violent, but he has never displayed the middle ground. Scott figures that this is the closest to a middle ground that he might get, so he takes it and doesn't want to cause him to snap in the car, although he would know just how to calm him down, as they are very similar in nature. But he prefers to watch over him than to have to try to subdue him. Upon arriving at the house, Scott warns her that this is where she loses all her rights as a person, and that once she steps through the door, there are no limits as to what can and will happen to her. Her feeling has only gotten worse, and there is nothing she can do to make it go away. She doesn't want to leave, though, because she's heard good things about Kevin and wants to experience what it is that makes him so different. Kevin is looking at her from the living room. He is eager to get started and yells for her to come inside and jump in the shower in order to get the smell of sweat off of her. While she takes a shower, they walk into the room to prepare for the night ahead, sex, and then the other more delightful activities. Kevin brings out the chains, whips, handcuffs, and ball gag. Then he shows Scott a paddle with nails. Intrigued, Scott lets out a small smile as he has proven that he is not high on showcasing his emotions, which is the opposite of the always smiling Kevin. But just like how Scott will show a smile every now and then, Kevin will let his rage out. Scott opens a duffel bag and takes out a gallon of water, towel, lighter, alcohol, and a pair of thick leather gloves before walking over to the closet to grab a metal hanger. What the F are the gloves for? Kevin asks. Effing hangers get hot quick, man. I learned that the hard way, Scott answers. Can't wait to see it in action. I've never thought of that, Kevin says. It's fun. It's kind of like branding someone, a smirking Scott replies. Holy crap. I need a drink. Goddess walks back into the room fully naked, curious to see who she gets first, or if they're going at the same time. She is shocked when they start a game of rock, paper, scissors childish, to determine who would start. Much to her dismay, Scott wins and walks over to her, staring into her eyes to the point where she gets uncomfortable and lowers her head. That was the opening he was looking for, as he quickly throws her to the ground and orders her to stay there. A little nervous, she tries to stand up, but he grabs her by the back of the neck and shoves her face forward onto the floor, causing Kevin to flinch a bit. Crying, Goddess looks at him, but doesn't say a word as Scott lays on the floor next to her, staring into her eyes, silent as always, just smiling with a hanger in his gloved hands. He orders her to turn around so he can watch as he heats up the hanger with the lighter. She starts to cry harder, still holding back her words since she knows that the domination is a little intense, but she has never experienced it like this before. Once the hanger is hot enough, he begins to wrap it around her right breast, causing a scream to rip from her throat. She can feel her skin sizzling a little and wants him to stop, but knows that no matter what she says, there won't be any stopping them from doing what they want until they're completely satisfied. Kevin looks on, fascinated by the aggression shown as Scott grabs the handcuffs, cuffing her to the bed, and proceeds to go for the towel and water. He wants her not to struggle and to breathe, letting her know that it won't be easy not to panic as he places the towel over her face and starts to pour the water over her. Not heeding his warning, she freaks out and tries to break free, causing her to start coughing uncontrollably. Scott is enjoying every second of the torture he is inflicting. He continues to pour more water onto the towel. Knowing that she can't see what he is going to do next, he leans over her and snaps open a switchblade next to her ear so that she can hear the knife opening, but not know for sure what it is. She starts to beg as he caresses her inner thigh with a dull part of the knife while continuing to drench her towel-covered face. "Tell me what you want," Scott yells. "I want you to stop," a sobbing Goddess answers. "Wrong. Tell me what you want," Scott yells again, still rubbing her thighs with his knife. "I want you," Goddess replies, screaming. Yeah, you do." "Well, just give me a second. Let me finish here, and I'll give you what you've been looking for since the beginning of the night," Scott says as he flips the knife over. "Wait, what are you doing?" a worried Goddess asks. What the hef?" Goddess screams as Scott begins to cut her thighs. Going from thigh to thigh, he continues to cut, nothing deep, but enough for her to get worried that she's going to die, as he removes the towel from her face so that he can look into her eyes and see the muscles on her face move with each cut. With each new slice into her flesh, she cringes, which brings joy to the men's faces. As Scott continues to punish her, he then shows her everything that Kevin has in mind for her, and more tears begin to flow down her cheeks. Scott leans in to lick them from her skin as she tries to pull her face away from him. Aware that she can't go anywhere, she closes her eyes with the hope that Scott will just go away. She squeezes her eyes tight as she tries to sense where he is, but there is no movement around her to give her away his position. She slowly opens her left eye just a bit to see where he is, and much to her surprise, he is standing over her with a knife right next to her nose. "I think it's time to show you the results of pursuing beauty, especially when it ends up like something as hideous as you," Scott says. Goddess can only whimper, her fear blocking words from escaping her mouth. "You really think that anything that you could say or do will make a difference? You think you're beautiful?" Scott snarls. She shakes her head frantically. "It's not important because even if you do believe it, I don't see it, and it has no effect on me," Scott adds. "Please don't kill me," a concerned Goddess begs, tears leaking from her eyes. "Do you expect to die?" Kevin asks. "I don't know what's going on. I mean, I know that domination can be intense, but this is beyond that. Plus, this guy scares the crap out of me," Goddess answers. "We did warn you that you were going to shoot yourself," Kevin says. "True, but this is something that not a lot of people would be able to handle," Goddess replies. Looking from Kevin to Scott and then back to Kevin, she asks, why doesn't he say much? Because it's all about action for him, and you must admit he's good at it. Crap. He has had you so scared that I would guess that you're close to welcoming death already, but he won't let you die. Not yet. Kevin mockingly says. I don't understand why you guys are doing this, but please, it's not too late, Goddess replies. You're right. It's never too late to achieve or change something. Yet, you are out of time, and that's something you're unable to change, Kevin says. Goddess squirms uncomfortably under their wavering stares. You do recall giving up your rights when you walked in here, right? Kevin asks. Not knowing what else to do, Goddess nods her agreement, remembering what Scott said just before she stepped through the door of this house of horrors. You might think that this isn't fair, but life isn't fair. It's not meant to be simple or have a gray area. It's black or white. But we create the gray area, we complicate things, and that's why you don't understand. You can never understand because your mind is still closed to the reality of this world. You can never understand, but luckily for you, you won't have to be in the dark for long, Kevin adds. Stepping aside so that Kevin can have a turn, Scott sits on the floor next to her face so he can continue to look into her brown eyes, eagerly waiting to see how her life flees through them. Kevin looks down at her, pulling the ball gag out of his pocket and places it in her mouth, while advising her not to fight it and enjoy the process since it will be unlike anything else she has experienced before she dies. Before she dies. Oh, no, there it is. Okay. Unsure what to think, Goddess opens her mouth willingly, hoping this will lead to them changing their minds about killing her, or at least let it turn out to be a cruel joke that they are playing. I suggest you relax a little more. That way you can enjoy it to its full potential, Kevin says. There are things that are meant to be enjoyed in their entirety, but this is one of them. Gagged and scared, she looks on while Kevin grabs the chains and starts to beat her with them, trying to scream around the ball gag in her mouth. She annoyed him so much that he swung the chain close to her head twice, with the first being a warning shot as he came close to her, but pulled it to the side at the last possible second. But the second time, he had a square on the top of the ball gag and the bridge of her nose, causing blood to pour from her nose and tears down her cheeks. Entertained, he continues to hit her with the chain another eight times before finally tiring of the same boring punishment. Walking to the end of the bed, he grabs the paddle, the nails glinting as they catch the light. Close to her legs, Kevin lowers the paddle to the floor and slowly drags it upward toward her face so she can first hear what is coming her way before seeing the next instrument of pain in his sick, twisted way of finding satisfaction. He wants to show her that there is nothing off limits and that the extent that he is willing to go is truly limitless, and the possibilities are endless as she stares at the paddle, seeing that it's covered in nails. Scott notices her struggling to say something, so he leans closer to see if he can make out what she's trying to communicate. But the ball gag, along with the blood, make her attempt nothing but a garbled mess of sounds. Leaning back from her, he lets one of his rare smiles lift his lips, knowing that they can do whatever they want to someone and not have to worry about them after they're done is so satisfying and arousing. You know what really irks me about you, woman? Kevin asks, staring down at her while lightly tapping the paddle against his thigh. He answers his own question. The fact that you all go by your looks to get what you want. Just because you're beautiful in your own way doesn't give you the right to manipulate a man or a woman into doing something for you. Look at you now. You thought that you were coming here to get effed and maybe take some money. Well, you're effed now, that's for sure. You're never leaving this place. I know you're thinking that people know where you are, but the reality is that my security camera will show that you were never here. All thanks to that beautiful thing called technology. I must admit that I slacked off a little bit by allowing you to have your phone. But hey, it can't always be perfect. Kevin uses the paddle to smash her phone. Losing all hope now, she realizes that there is no way that they are going to let her leave, and that most likely death is waiting for her, and it could come at any second to take her from this cruel world. Scott gets off the bed as Kevin wraps her legs with the chain so it's easier to move her around without her trying to kick free or cause them harm in any way. Once her legs are wrapped, Scott releases the handcuffs from the bed and turns her on her stomach. Kevin immediately begins to strike her with a paddle, drawing blood instantly and ripping her flesh. Pieces of her skin coming up with the paddle every time it's yanked off her body. Knowing that things will turn into a little bit of a mess, Scott lifts her onto his shoulders as they all head toward the basement, where they have a hidden room that came with the house. They always wanted to find a use for it. Now they have an idea. And since no one ever visits them besides Bella, and since she's now out of the picture, there's nothing to worry about because they have soundproofed it and are eager to put it to the test. They throw Goddess into the room, but before they close themselves in, Scott walks out for a second, then returns with a sledgehammer, showing her that there are things far worse than death. I want you to realize that there are things you will never be able to escape from, Kevin says, as Scott gets closer with the sledgehammer in hand. Oh, F, Goddess screams as Scott smashes her right leg with a sledgehammer. F, please stop, she cries in between screams as he smashes her left leg and then walks out of the room. That is it for chapter 5. That was a little bit intense. Okay, so if you would like to comment on what we have just read through, feel free to do so. I will reply to you. Please like, share, subscribe, all the good stuff. Keeps me going with this. Next time we come back, it'll be chapter 6, Delicate Things, Dreams Die First. So, I know this is a long one, but it's okay. We made it. Have a nice day, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.